like Spit. Not anymore.
Well, I have a job for you.
What?
Batman Red Reward. We have to find the Butterfly Man. Ooh, danger, danger.
Too low.
We have to find Bellagio before he does spooky bad things. Hello? Wake up.
No! Yeah! Jesus! Fuck!
I know, I'm a little late to this one, but True Detective blew me away. I don't know why the pilot didn't hook me when I saw it back in 2014, but I gave it another shot, and now, I get it. True Detective Season 1 is rich with atmosphere and character. Years later, fans are still flocking to message boards to discuss some of the show's larger mysteries. It's not something you watch just once. It's a show you watch, make a couple memes about, try to watch Season 2,
I'll come back and butt fuck your father.
rewatch Season 1, repeat. Its bleak southern landscapes and pessimistic monologues paint a picture of despair and dread that'll make you doomers feel right at home. But you know, if you look past the rural decay and morally ambiguous characters, you'll find the True Detective maybe isn't so pessimistic after all. Straight from the title sequence, it feels like you're entering a dying place. The haunting soundtrack underscores a decaying southern landscape. We see massive refineries, overgrown vegetation, billowing smoke. We also see the underbelly of this dying place, biker bars and stripper poles. It's this mix of desolation and vices that form a land of hopelessness. It's an environment of largely powerless people, but more on that later. Who leads us through these desolate lands? Enter Russ and Cole and Marty Hart. We follow them throughout 17 years as they establish themselves in Louisiana State CID's Homicide Division. Marty serves as a straight man.
Regular type dude with a big ass dick.
And Russ, the mysterious figure that just came into town from Texas.
Got a bad taste in my mouth out here.
At the center of the story is a grisly murder. You're probably thinking to yourself, I've seen this before. What makes it different from any other murder mystery? Well, True Detective purposely uses narrative tropes to cut to the chase and focus on its greatest strength, character. You don't just see these characters working a case and chasing bad guys, you get a glimpse of how they live and what makes them who they are. Structurally, True Detective uses the familiar narrative of a police procedural to dissect character, motivation, and world in a truly unique way. As detectives, Russ and Marty find themselves in the world's darker corners, and each of them comes away from these experiences with a different perspective. But before we really get to know these two, we have to talk in depth about True Detective's largest character, its setting.
I feel one of the things that really affected people viscerally was the reality of Louisiana. You know, like it to them seemed like an unearthly place. But growing up, I was and still am haunted by the contradictions of the place, the corruption and toughness, the tragedy of it.
Amongst the rural decay, there's another element contained within True Detective's title sequence that has a major impact on its setting: religion. Notably in this context, religion spawned as a product of fear and powerlessness. Reading from the original pitch documents that Elastic, a visual effects company, sent to the showrunners, it's clear that they immediately understood the connection between religion, vices, and detritus present in the script, or, as they state, the link between broken landscapes and broken people. As Russ and Marty try to find leads on the case, they interview the everyday townsfolk of southern Louisiana. These people are worn down, defeated, rusted. As Elastic describes, these characters are all at the edge of a personal apocalypse. We see this in the first few episodes, with Dora Lang's mother, the chemicals from her years of factory work eating away at her fingers, and Danny Fontenot, a retired basso player, sidelined by a series of strokes. This, of course, applies to our main characters as well. Marty's marriage is failing. Cole's already failed after the loss of his daughter. Moreover, we see this personified through Russ's chemical flashbacks, which are a result of his time in an HIDTA.
That's in high-intensity drug trafficking area.
Pizzolatto has said before that it's impossible to consider character without considering where they're from. This is the environment that these broken people inhabit.
the places we shot the show, it's almost like the apocalypse already came to those places, right?
Nick Pizzolatto describes Louisiana as the long, bright dark, this bright environment where darkness exists. The environment is toxic, both physically and spiritually, and as we come to find out, it is rife with corruption. The two ruling powers here are the government and the Tuttle ministry, equally oppressive in the way they exploit those who put their faith in them. Exploitation of land, exploitation of women. As Russ says, the alligators are swimming all around us.
I caught zero logic in all that, and that last bit, pure gibberish.
Marty Hart is a family man, at odds with who he is. His fatal flaw is his insecurity. In his wife Maggie's own words, Marty never knew who he was, so he never knew what he wanted. He creates problems for himself, binge drinking and cheating on his wife, only to realize later that the key to his own happiness was right under his nose all along: commitment. His self-centeredness causes problems with his daughters and ultimately costs him his own marriage. Maggie, on the other hand, lives in the past, always waiting to catch a break with Marty and go back to how it was in their earlier years, waiting for the day they will fully commit to her and the kids. She does, however, come to realize Marty's unfaithfulness and shapes up to be one of the most pragmatic characters in the series.
We change, don't we? And sometimes not for long.
And here I'm thinking people don't really change at all. Not who they are at heart. You know, you put a ceiling on your life, on everything, because you won't change.
When we first meet Rust, he is despondent, aloof, and emotionless. He just finished a stint at a psychiatric hospital after working undercover for a dangerous amount of time. More prominently, he just lost his child, something that would come to define the way he sees the world. By this point, he's lost it all and then some. He also exhibits all the traits of a grieving parent. Unable to cope with the loss, he turns to nihilistic philosophies to mask his pain. If nothing matters, then maybe his daughter's death wasn't such a big deal in the grand scheme of things. If the world is a mess, then maybe she was spared from it. Of course, as we see later, he has a breakdown on his daughter's birthday, because he knows deep down that her death really did affect him. Russ is very self-aware, to the point where he's actually hypersensitive. Everything has meaning for him, which stands at odds with his nihilism. Little details go a long way in solidifying this idea. He reads his pulse to steady himself. He knows his visions aren't real, and he has synesthesia, or as Marty bluntly puts it,
He tastes colors.
despite knowing himself, his daughter's death shook him up so much that he has to hide behind his beliefs because he knows his pain is too taxing.
I always thought Russ was very soulful, especially in the sense that I always got the sense from Russ in his pessimism, however convincingly articulated, that he was a man trying to convince himself, you know, or else he could put a lid on it. I always took Rust as his complaint is essentially Job's complaint, which is that if you believe in a personal God who has a destiny for everyone, well, then you're just a character in his story. And Job's complaint is, I am a character in a story, and I do not like this story, and I do not like the limitations of my character.
Nick Pizzolatto has stated before that Russ and Marty are the two people he could have been, either through the quite convincing pessimism of Cole, or with Marty's ability to sweep his misbehavior under the rug. Although these two share what appear to be totally different viewpoints and create a very entertaining foil, as the series goes on, we see that they're not so different after all. You could say that Rust also hides from his problems the same way that Marty does. There's a moment about halfway through True Detective where Rust tells Marty,
Nobody without me. There is no you.
it's a very significant line, as it holds immense meaning both professionally and symbolically for their friendship. At face value, it means that without Rust doing the legwork and covering up Marty's execution of Reggie Ledoux, his career wouldn't be where it is right now. On a deeper level, it means that they're actually two halves of the same whole.
One of the things I think the show does as it goes forward, it pulls a lot of its drama and a lot of its best moments from a juxtaposition of opposites, and the two lead characters are almost like that in a way. But as the show goes on, I feel one of the points I try to make, and maybe it's made, maybe it's not, is that these binary relationships are illusory. There's no such thing as opposites, there's only symmetries, right? And you know, part of the tragedy, if there is a tragedy to their relationship, is that each one could have shown the other how to live.
True Detective isn't composed of opposites, but of symmetries. Pizzolatto said in an interview before that he wanted to make 4 duologies out of 8 episodes, partially to put a restraint on shooting time and to cast bigger actors, and partially because he liked the symmetry of it. Looking back, it's clear that each pair of episodes follow a similar through line and work as 2 parts of the same act. Dora Lang's investigation, Chasing Ledoux, the breakup, the reunion. However, no episode exemplifies this idea of symmetry more than episode 4. This episode is structurally divided right down the middle. It's also the halfway point of the show, since it's episode 4 of 8.
Heavy shit.
Marty drives the first half of the story, before the two meet in the middle, literally, as Marty stays at Russ' place. Russ then takes over the last half, but we'll get to that in a bit. We open with Marty following up leads, trying to get closer to the suspect, Reggie Ledoux. Although Russ still tags along in a couple of scenes, Marty does most of the legwork, even going solo to track down a dealer. We even get a sneaky little cameo here. Does he look familiar? I'd zoom out, but whoa, can't show that on a family website. Anyway, Marty's marriage problems come to a head as Maggie leaves him. Distraught, he visits her workplace and causes a scene. Russ comes to break them up, and he takes Marty back to his place. Earlier, Marty told Russ that Ledoux sells to a biker gang named the Iron Crusaders, which happened to be the same gang that Russ ran with back in his narco days. After going back undercover for a few weeks, Russ emerges as a side of himself that we've yet to see. Crash. The plan is simple. Infiltrate the Iron Crusaders with an offer.
Coke for meth.
Posing as a frontrunner for some maquilladoras south of the border. Get the deal brokered, get to Ledoux. Of course, things get complicated, and Russ is roped into a stash house robbery that goes to hell fast. There's not really much to analyze in the second half, but it's just still so badass.
Totally and completely badass.
Intense, non-stop anxiety-inducing television. When I first watched it, I got that feeling that I rarely get in a film where it's almost out of body. I'm holding my breath, just pulled right into what's happening on the screen. What this episode does so well is really show you the camaraderie that these two have for each other, especially considering this was done completely off the record. Beyond depicting the horrors that Russ and Marty must face as they track a serial killer, True Detective also depicts horror on a grander, cosmic scale, most notably in reference to the elusive Yellow King.
I liked both that the Yellow King, its mythology, is a story that drives one to madness. It's considered an early example of the type of weird literature that produced what came to be known as a sense of cosmic horror and cosmic dread. I found that the atmosphere of cosmic dread was very suited both to noir and to this time and place, a place where superstition and belief run rampant. The sense of cosmic dread comes from living in a universe where God is silent and you know you're going to die. Supernatural horror doesn't scare me at all. Believers scare me. Fanatics scare me.
Yellow King is never shown as some supernatural figure. In fact, he's never shown at all, although there will always be theories regarding his presence in the story. While he's not explicitly shown, his victims are, and the believers who carry out his will are the horror in this story. There is, however, a greater horror on display in True Detective. The idea of Job's complaint was mentioned. Russ Cole does not like his story. We see Russ go through these stages in his life. Marty also does, but he's steady for the most part. If 1995 Russ is despondent, 2002 Russ is a pressure cooker, anger simmering beneath the surface, fueled by contempt at the world around him. Even at Marty, as this is where the two break off and he exits the story for 10 years. By the time he returns to 2012, Russ appears as this brittle spirit of vengeance, then renewed, healed. However, as Russ himself knows all too well, time is a flat circle.
In that complaint, I think isn't he also a character complaining about being a character on a TV show? He lives when someone watches his story, and there's nothing he can do to change it. And we do stand outside of his dimension, and it does look flattened to us.
Perhaps one of True Detective's most famous philosophies is the idea of the end-brain theory. Time is relative. We experience it through our own perspective, but if it were flattened, we'd see it as a whole. Everything you've done or ever will do can be seen as one continuum. In this context, Russ' life is a sphere, and to us, it's a circle. Russ will be haunted, then healed, only to one day end up haunted again. While that may sound dark, there's always light hidden beneath the darkness, which is the real philosophy at the heart of True Detective. Russ will always be haunted by his daughter's death, but on the other hand, she will always be there to push him out of the darkness and into the light.
It was like I was a part of everything that I ever loved. And all I had to do was let go. And I did. But I could still feel her love there. Even more than before.
By the end, Russ concludes that the world is a mess, but it's still worth saving. They didn't get them all, but no one ever does. After his brush with death, Rust has this major shift in belief, but in actuality, he's held this belief all along. It was just stuffed down under layers upon layers of darkness. In this unending cycle of light versus dark, light gains just a little more ground each time, and those true beliefs will always win in the end. Before I wrap up this video, I just want to take a look at the process behind the scenes. The featurette is a treasure trove of thematic analysis for True Detective. The people who worked on this really knew they had something special on their hands. That, plus a multitude of interviews and conversations with Nick Pizzolatto, it's clear that there's a lot to talk about. I really like this French interview, for instance, although the language barrier can be vast at times.
That's it.
True Detective was written in 3 months and shot in 6 on 35mm film. It was shot on location in Louisiana, and due to that, the crew had to contend with a lot of challenges, from weather to dangerous wildlife. Woody Harrelson was always on the short list of actors, thanks to Rampart and Game Change, but the word around town was that Woody Harrelson didn't do TV. Luckily, Matthew McConaughey was really interested in the script, and actually suggested that Harrelson act alongside him. McConaughey was approached because Pizzolatto remembered him from his earlier roles. Well, not that one. It was a film called Frailty that showed his intensity. I always heard about the McConaissance, and after watching this one, I'm on board now. After True Detective, I saw The Lincoln Lawyer, which was great, Interstellar, and Gold, which was not so great. Personal side note, I think they could have cast someone else as Errol. After seeing Glenn Flesher and Barry, it was just hard to see him any other way.
Why you bullying me?
Many big actors weren't really doing TV at the time. There were good TV shows, but they weren't star-studded. True Detective broke waves with its Southern Lovecraftian style as well. Some shows going forward would clearly be inspired by True Detective's aesthetic. Finally, after winning a good amount of Emmys and acclaim, Nick Pizzolatto immediately started on season 2. But,
You pull off that e-cig. Not a lot of people do. I tried one once. It felt like it was smoking me. A real cigarette wouldn't make you feel like that. Maybe it was just a little too close to suck a robot's dick. I don't know.
I think I'd rather watch season 1 again. Hey there. Hope you enjoyed this video. YouTube's a tough racket these days, so if you could subscribe or share, it'd be really helpful.
Fuck you.
Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.